Jared, how do you view this team defensively?
I have some pretty significant concerns defensively, to be honest.
Go.
What's that?
Go. What are your concerns? What are
the first two are transition, especially, and defensive rebounding, I think, are going to be issues for them. Like, you got two guys that either can't or don't get back on defense in Embiid and LeBron. And all of a sudden you're talking about the three guys that have to defend in the backcourt by themselves. Two of them are small and very slight, and one of them, Jaylen Brown, is going to have like a major heavy lift to perform in transition defense. Like, I am very worried about, like, offense transition. They're going to kill teams.
They're going to fly
out on the break.
We
didn't even talk about that.
We were wrong to not talk about that. I do think they'll be a top 5 transition offensive team.
Yeah, they are going to kill teams on the break on that end of the court. I think that they could get killed going back the other way in transition defense, though. It's not a high-level defensive rebounding team. Like, Embiid is not an elite defensive rebounder anymore. He's a good one, but he's not an elite one. Everybody else, like an average-ish positional rebounder. Like, LeBron and Jaylen are like average-ish positional rebound. Like, LeBron's a very good rebounder, but for a 4, he's like an average rebounder. Jaylen Brown, average rebounder for a 3. Maxey and Edgecombe, not great rebounders. Like, I think that they could get hit on the defensive glass a little bit. And then I am very worried about Embiid in pick and roll defense, because I think he's still good. Like, when you get him at the rim, he can defend at the rim. If you get him in space, like, he was a traffic cone in that Knicks series. It was a disaster. They put him through the blender every trip down the court, and that's what the Knicks were doing to score every single time. Granted, most teams are not the Knicks. But if you draw Embiid into space, especially if you run a pick and roll with Maxey's guy, like, that's going to be really difficult for these guys, especially because Jaylen Brown's strength on defense is on the ball, not off the ball. You turn him into a helper, he's not quite as effective. Edgecombe's strength on the ball, you want him defending at the point of attack, but he's also, like, he's kind of slight. Like, he's only 180 pounds. He's a dog, and he's going to absolutely put 1,000% into the defense every single trip up the floor, especially now, because that's going to be his primary role on this team. Like, I trust him to do a good job of that, but there are guys who are going to be able to power through him. That's just physics. And I'm worried about Maxey on the ball. I'm not as worried about him away from the ball. He can't get a little spaces sometimes, but he's really good in passing lanes. But I'm worried about him on the ball. I'm worried about Embiid in space. I'm worried about LeBron's going to have to be the primary helper. And we know his effort in that department waxes and wanes during the regular season, because it has to, because he's going to be 42 years old in December.
Yeah, for kind of working backwards a little bit with the LeBron aspect of it. Again, if he has a lighter load on offense, I could see him willing to expend a little bit more energy on that end of the court defensively and putting a little bit more fight. When he does and when he wants to, he's still good on that end. Not elite, but good, right? Like, it's not, and that's fair at 42. Being a good defender at 42 is pretty damn impressive.
And I don't have worries about him on the, like, when you get him on the ball, if, like, you switch him onto someone, or if he has
it's rotations.
Matchup, like, I'm not worried about that. It's more the attentiveness and the effort away from the ball, which he intentionally dials up and down because he has to. How much is he going to be able to dial that up? Because they're really going to need him to be, especially like backline help, when they put Embiid in pick and rolls and whatnot.
So the thing I find interesting is, like, I think this is where Nick Nurse is going to make most of his money, is how he, and as we talked about in the beginning, how creative he was back in the day defensively. He's going to need to bring a lot of that stuff back, because I think we're going to see a lot more zones with them. I think you're going to see more effort to switch Embiid out of these pick and rolls, or pre-switch and stuff. And that can go either way, and that can cause a little bit of confusion. But I won't be surprised if we see opportunities where it's, as Embiid's guys going to take the pick and roll, it's Jaylen Brown going with him and Embiid staying back to try to hover near the rim and be at that level. And again, put Brown in the positions defensively of where he wants to be and how he can, be more forceful and have more impact there. Edgecombe is slight, but I also think another year in the league, another off season of weights and stuff like that. Let's see what he comes back. We obviously know whatever they tell us in the media guide is a lie. So when he comes back at 200 pounds, it's really probably at like 190 something, and not in the high end. But like, I think his ability defensively, like I kind of look at it going like, cool, he's my point of attack defender.
Mm-hmm.
Brown's going to take the wings. We got to try to find ways to keep Embiid at the rim. And if we can just get Maxey and LeBron just be in the right positions an X amount of number of times. I don't know what the percentage would have to be, but like if we can get them in those positions to help and rotate and be in the right spot at the right time, just throwing out a number, like 75% of the time, we're going to be in good shape defensively. Yes, good teams are going to find a way to put them in stressful situations. But I think with where you're kind of looking at it, I think they can mold a pretty decent defense. A lot of teams don't have two good on-ball defenders that they can put on the court at the same time, right? Like this is where it'll get interesting with how they kind of how do they figure these guys into the rotation and how do they work this stuff out? But like I think they can kind of cobble a good enough defense. I am worried about the rebounding though. The rebounding is where it's like, okay, especially if they go to zone, you give up a ton of offensive rebounds if you're not careful. And that's one where I think they have to really put a lot of stress on.
Yeah, I'm worried about the rebounding. I'm worried about Embiid in space. I think that it's good that they're going to have defenders coming off the bench in like Dean Wade and KCP, especially because they're bringing Anthony Simons off the bench and they're going to need that's another guy that you got to cover up for defensively. Like he's going to get lit up, obviously, defensively. That's going to be a pretty significant problem, but he's also going to light it up on the other end from three, especially. And that's another guy they can use creative offensively that we didn't even mention before. They got to get creative in terms of how they're going to use him, especially if you put him and Maxey on the court together and you have all that shooting out there. But that's really tough defensively. And I don't know how you cover up for that. Like so much of this just rides on Embiid recapturing the defensive form that he had like 4 years ago. And if that doesn't happen though, I'm worried.
You can't count on that. Right? Like you in that way, if just looking at the Embiid's body of work, just Embiid's body, like you just can't expect it. It's just, can we keep him at the rim as much as possible so that he can just put his hands up? Because even really, he doesn't even jump to contest shots anymore like he used to. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I think that's just not going to happen. And I think you have to sort of allow this to kind of, if you're Nick Nurse, you got to find ways to set up defenses so that he can stay near the rim and be on and have everybody else spread out and fire out. Like defensively is going to be interesting. And I'm more concerned on the defensive end than I am the offensive end. I understand everybody's worried about there's only one ball, and we say that all the time. But it almost works all the time. Like every time we say that and we have these worries, I think we're overthinking it. Mm-hmm. I think the guys understand that there's only one ball as well, right? We're not going to have Carlton ripping the ball out of Will Smith, out of Will's arms and then chuck up the game winner in the middle of the game type of situation. But I think you're going to have I think you're going to find a little bit of a fluid offense that's going to be interesting. It's defense where it's like, can you put it together just enough defensively that we can figure this stuff out? That's where I'm more concerned than anything else.
Well, let me ask you this. If the offense, we both said offense, like more in the 6 to 10 range than the 3 to 5 range offensively, if the defense is just good enough or average, is that good enough for them to be the type of team they want to be? If they're not a top 3 to 5 offense, like, if you want to be a title contender and your defense is only average-ish, you need a top 5 offense at this point. You can't be like the 8th best offense and the 16th best defense and be a title team. If you're going to be a top 7 offense, top 8 offense, you probably got to be a top 7 or 8 defense. Otherwise, you got to be in the top 3 to 5 offensively if you want to be an average defense in order to really win the championship.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say this is a team that's going to go win the championship. Like, so I'm not in that realm. I think their odds are better than what it was.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, right? You had LeBron. You're obviously more talent. How do you think Dean Wade feels though? He was 2 days ago. He had a starting job, and now he's a backup. Think there's going to be a competition in camp. I think the where they got to be defensively, I think they got to be just a little bit above average.
Yeah.
And I think and I'm talking like 13, 12 range. And I think they'll put themselves in a pretty good position with where they'd be at. Which then leads us to the next question, really. Looking at the Eastern Conference, like where do you see them? You know, the whole everybody's been running around the Eastern Conference is better than the Western Conference type of run right now, and it's pretty arguable. Where do you see them in what's becoming a relatively tough East? You know, with obviously the Knicks at the top, I think that's no question. But where do you see how they fit in the Eastern Conference?
So a couple things. First, they were 16th in defense last year. They got to be better than that. That's first thing, just to hit on the last point that we were covering there. I do think there are people that think they are better than the Knicks. I disagree with that.
Well, we don't talk about delusional people here, Jared.
I would have the Knicks pretty clearly ahead of them and the rest of the East at this point, given what they did during the playoffs. But before that too, I agree the East is better than the West. Like top to bottom, I think it's pretty clear. But I think the two best teams are probably still in the West.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's the deal. And I mean, the East is going to be really tough on a nightly basis. Easier for you now. You have better games now at the 7:00 slot than you did. Yeah. You're much happier now. You might actually skip out on some West games.
Yeah, I might do like an early game, go to sleep, and then watch another early game when I wake up. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I've spent so many years watching more Western Conference teams than Eastern Conference teams. Like I track all of the games I watched, and the West is more every single year. But this year, it's probably going to lean toward the East for the first time in forever.
That's amazing. What's your view though of them in the East? Like, where do you see them fitting in the Eastern Conference?
I think they're in that next tier of teams, but that next tier of teams is like it could be like 7 teams, you know, like Philly is in there. Toronto, assuming that the Raptors get Kawhi, is in there. Detroit is still in there. Like Detroit won 60 games last year. You know, they're going to win a bunch of regular season games this year. Cleveland is going to win a bunch of regular season games. Atlanta was so much better last year down the stretch of the season and added more talent this offseason. Like, why can't Orlando bounce back? Like, Miami is probably going to be better than 43-39 at least. Like, the Pacers are going to be a lot better, obviously, this year than last year. Like, I don't even know how many. There are going to be like 9 or 10 teams that expect to be in the top 6, and 4 of them are not going to do it.
You didn't even mention Boston.
I forgot about Boston. Like,
that's going to be. So the thing is like part of it here, like, so let's go back. I want to go to the Detroit thing because part of it for me with Detroit, and as we've known, I'm not a John Collins believer. But part of it too is like, I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year.
No, they're not going to win 60 games, but I view it as like the Cavs from the year before where they won 60 whatever games and they dropped down to 52 last year. The Pistons are going to win in the 50s.
But I think we keep assuming these teams are going to win more in the 50s. There are not a lot of tankers anymore in the East, not with the way or in the league anymore with the way this stuff with the relegation and things like that. You know, Washington's going to be a little bit better depending on if AD and Trae Young actually play. Well, Trae better play. He just got this massive contract. We'll see what happens with AD's world. But like, do you think there's going to be Like it's going to be harder on a nightly basis in the East
Mm-hmm.
to stack wins in the way you were before. Last year, you had a ton of teams you got to stack wins against, like on a nightly basis, where it was like, yeah, they ain't trying to win. So now it gets more difficult. I think Knicks tier of their own. And I think after that it's everybody else. And it will be a free fall, for battling for the last 5 spots for auto berth.
Yeah.
Into the playoffs, 2 through 6 is going to be absolutely insane. And I think the play-in tournament's going to be nuts because there's going to be 2 or 3 teams in the play-in tournament that we're going to look at going like, damn, man, like, cool. Like, to me, Miami, let me just put it this way. Miami's not in that second tier, though. Miami's a third tier play-in team to me right now. The way that roster is setting up, I don't see how that team's going to be really anything more than a play-in tournament team unless there's major trades coming or whatnot. Indiana, I think, is a top 6 team. Boston, I'm iffy on because we're really counting on Jason Tatum off an Achilles, and they never talked about what happened in Game 7, with him not playing. And then Mitchell Robinson's health is going to matter for them significantly. I'm not necessarily going to put them in.
Georgia's health is going to matter significantly.
Yeah, they can be a tier 2 team if everybody's healthy, but we just named 3 guys where we're like, it's.
Well, you could say the same thing about Indiana too. Like, we don't know what Tyrese Halliburton's going to look like.
We don't know what Tyrese Halliburton is. You're right. We don't know what. I am confident enough, though. I think Tyrese will be fine, and if he comes back, just even 85% of what he was, I think they have enough with Siakam, with Zubac. I think they're going to be in a good position. I think Detroit's a top 6 team to me.
The problem is there are 8 or 9 top 6 teams, and you can't.
That's the problem, and I think this is where we're going to have the challenge. So the East is going to be a lot more fun. This was a great signing, just in the sense of like great sort of fun now for what we have in the Eastern Conference. At least for me, the 4:00 games now matter so much more than they did before. Like, now I have to make sure I'm home by 3:30 so I can lock in for some of those 4:00 games. I'm not sure. Like, Cleveland's a weird team to me. I don't know what they are.
Running it back, but without Dean Wade.
The hole that Dean Wade left. I just don't know.
They signed Mario Hezonja today.
Yeah. Okay.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. But like, let's see what you got. The East is going to be insane. I think people are being too pessimistic a little bit on the Sixers. And I think
I feel like people are being like incredibly optimistic. I've seen more like the Sixers are the best team in the East than
I've not seen. Where are you seeing that? I mean, if we're just
on the bad website.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anybody reputable saying it?
I don't think so.
Okay. So stop it.
You know what? I always say that to other people, so I should take my own advice.
Yeah. No, like, come on, Jared. Like, that's like Laker fans thinking they were going to win everything when they got Lonzo Ball. Like, it's not, we don't need the irrational. It's fun to dive into the irrational stuff. I like looking at it and getting a good laugh, but I haven't seen anybody of consequence talk about this team being a championship level team or better than the Knicks.
They passed the Knicks in the odds.
It's because a lot of money's coming down on it because all these idiots are throwing their money away. That's,
you know what I feel bad for, by the way? I feel bad for the Nets with the Knicks, Sixers, Celtics, and Raptors in their division. They're going to win like 8 games.
What was? Oh gosh, they announced the NBA Cup, the Emirates NBA Cup groupings, right? Isn't there it's like an insane?
Yeah, it's like the Knicks, Sixers, Pacers, and Celtics are all in the same group, I believe.
Oh man, it's like, I'm trying to find it because they had it. Yeah. Knicks, Cavs, Sixers, Pacers, Heat.
Oh, that's
is the grouping. That's a brutal group. That's a brutal group right there. But I think in general, though, I think they're going to be a little bit better. I think there's both sides. There's people that are very optimistic. There are people that are very pessimistic. I think the reasons for pessimism is the defense and having questions with that.
And I've seen more questions about the offense than I have about the defense, which is weird.
Yeah. I think the offense is going to work itself out.
Yeah.
I think the defense is really where they got to figure out what they're going to be. Like your point about transition defense, is going to be really fascinating. The only good news for them is Embiid probably won't have to run up the court so much because they're going to be so fast themselves. He ain't going across half court. I think that'll get where we're really interesting. Oh, we gonna get a little Brody? We're not interested.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, buddy, love it. And to anybody that gets mad when we talk about the dogs, screw you.
For those not watching on YouTube, my dog has joined the podcast.
Yeah, joined. Luca's off with his mom, so he's not really interested in me. I guess I'm probably more in the optimistic crowd of like, I think this is going to work more than people realize. But but to me, that doesn't mean championship, conference finals. Like I think they're just going to be better than people are giving them a little bit of credit for.
Yeah, I would say, like, I read my piece back that I wrote and it was more negative than I wanted it to be. But I think that's just because I naturally come at it from the perspective of asking questions, because there are questions, but I want to be clear that I expect them to work most of this stuff out just because of the sheer talent level. I think the last question I had is go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, like, every team has questions, right? Apart from New York, for the most part, everybody has questions.
I think there are questions about the Knicks. Like, is Andre Drummond even a reasonable facsimile of Mitchell Robinson? Not really.
No, but like, it's as long as you keep Cat healthy, you'll probably be fine in that stress. But that's your only question. You're fine.
Jalen Brunson's wrist surgery, like we just saw what happened with Jalen Williams' wrist surgery. It's Brunson's shooting wrist. Like, there are some questions.
But like these other teams, like when you talk about Boston, we laid out 3 guys there, figuring out what they're going to do, making up for what Jaylen Brown did. I mean, they think we saw all the silly comments, and I know, again, not sure how much it came from Boston itself, but like Pritchard being, stepping up to that level, we'll see. But like we've seen all these things, the Cavs have a million questions. It's Orlando. God knows Sean Sweeney. I like him. I think he did a great job as a defensive coach, but it was their offense that was really the problem. Although the defense was pretty bad last year too. It's we're looking at everybody. You mentioned it with Indiana about Halliburton, Toronto. Do they even get Kawhi? Like we have like a lot of stuff still has to be sorted out. I just think every team is going to have questions that they need to figure out in the way they go, and it's just going to come down to who answers them. I want to ask you one question, and I know you had something else.
Yeah.
On the LeBron signing there, I've seen a lot of stuff of like how dare him chase a ring types level stuff, right? Like, oh, he's just a ring chaser. Okay, that's how I said it all. And I've seen it from reputable people.
Is there anything he could have done that wouldn't have been considered ring chasing? Like, the guy is 42 years old. Wherever he signs, he's going after a ring. Like, also, by the way, why is ring chasing bad? All we want is for guys to want to win at all costs, and then they try to win at all costs, and we complain about them ring chasing. Like, I'm sorry, this is all nonsense.
He's supposed to. Is really my answer. Is he's supposed to. If he turned around and signed with Sack, I'd have been like, what the hell are you doing? You're never going to win there. Or it's like, you got to go where you have it. Like, this was part of it. You have to go where you have a chance to win. This is part of the reason why I thought it was going to be Cleveland. If it wasn't the Warriors, I thought it was going to be Cleveland. Most talent right there, and he could slide. They'd have a ton of questions to have to figure out, but just a ton of talent right there between them all. I lied. I have one more question, then you could ask your question, and then we'll take a break. What is the chances you think the Sixers trade Embiid now?
I don't know, like 25%.
I think it's lower. I just don't think I don't think there's going to be a market. And I just think it's going to be difficult. I've seen some people talking about trade for AD. I just don't see that happening, especially if AD is going to ask for that max extension with, how little he actually plays too.
Yeah. All right, let's take our quick break and then we'll come back. I'll ask you my question.
Okay. We are back, folks. And Jared, just take it away, man. I stalled enough last segment. What's your question?
Yeah. So in his tweets that he had announcing the decision, LeBron said he wants to bring a championship to Philadelphia. He thinks this move is what gives him the best chance to win a championship. Is that true? Out of the teams he was considering, is this his best chance to win a championship?
I think to some degree, like if he went to, let's just throw it out there. If he went to Golden State, I don't think they're good enough to win a championship. Denver would have been fun, but I don't know if they're good enough to win a championship. Minnesota gets really interesting. And I'm throwing the gamut of like all the teams, right? Minnesota gets really interesting. Miami is not a championship team, even with him. They just don't have enough shooting. And okay, maybe they'd have gotten KCP, but still, it's not enough. Cleveland's interesting just with the amount of talent, and I'm assuming Harden would re-sign with them. If I'm expecting Harden to re-sign with them regardless. But like, if they got LeBron, I would expect Harden to be there too. That'd be a ton of talent there from their perspective. I think they could have given them a better chance. I'll say this. He slots right in as a 4 with this team right away. Like that was the thing with Cleveland. It's like, cool, but he's not going to be the 4 there. So he's got to play the 3 who's guarding wings and things like that. I think he's kind of slotted in. I don't think they'll win a championship, but I think it's a pretty good position. It's hard to just say that knowing what you have with Joel Embiid, who's probably going to have to miss multiple games in every playoff series they play in.
Yeah, I would say out of the options available to him, I think this probably was the best chance to win a championship just because, like, I think you can argue whether this team is better or worse than the Wolves with LeBron would have been just because of the way that team is set up to insulate him defensively in a way that this one isn't quite. But I think that not having a Thunder or Spurs caliber team in the East makes you probably more likely to make it through the East. And you don't have to beat both Oklahoma City and San Antonio just to get to the finals, where you then have to meet, the Knicks or whoever else. Now you just have to get through the East and you only have to beat one of those teams from the Western Conference. But you're hanging your hat on a team where Joel Embiid has to be healthy for multiple playoff series, and that has just never happened before.
That's where it's
so
scary.
Is it actually the best chance if you need something to happen that has never happened and it's something that we don't think can happen? Like it's a really tough question because I think like the ceiling here, I think, is the highest. If everybody's healthy, they can win the title. I think. The idea that they're all going to be healthy, that Embiid in particular is going to be healthy, not just during the regular season, but for 4 rounds of a playoff run, just does not pass the smell test to me on any level whatsoever. So I feel like they can't do it.
No, I think that's part of it, with what they had to kind of they have to sort of figure out. I think that's part of the equation, right? Like I said, like I could see just Embiid, if they play a 7-game series, I could see him just playing 3 games in that series.
But then are they going to win that series? Like you're going to win 4 games?
I mean, or just 4,
like and a Dembona.
Well, I think they got to find another big somehow. I think at some point they'll have to figure out how or what they have to give up to do it. But I think they'll have to fortify the big stuff. First off, you know how I feel about Bona, right? Went to a stupid college. It's and I'm kidding. Bona's fine as a backup, but and same for Huck Porty. But on the nights where Embiid's got to sit, or Embiid can only play 25, 26 minutes a game. The other thing too that we didn't really talk about is there's going to be some LeBron at the 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that's going to just happen. Obviously maybe not against the Knicks, but like there's going to be or big teams, but there will be some of that on some nights in the way that they have to sort of figure out their rotations and all that. One other thing I want to mention about the offense that only just occurred to me now. The other thing that I think is really important for them and maybe a little bit easier for them establishing an offense, it's going to be a whole new offense for everybody, right? It's not just fitting in one piece, right? Everybody's going to have a whole new offense. It's not how do we incorporate one person into our offense and our ecosystem. It's we have no ecosystem. We're building it all together from the ground up. And I think that might be a little bit of an advantage. But again, it also goes to what we said. Everybody has to be willing to sacrifice with that. Anything else on the bone of this LeBron to Philly's chances, all this? Anything else you want to talk about?
I think we've touched on pretty much everything. There's probably something we're forgetting because that's just the way things go. But I think we covered what there is to cover.
I guess the one other thing, and we touched on it a little bit, the Nick Nurse aspect of it is like going to be interesting. This is going to be a very tough job. This is a very tough job right now. And so he'll have to figure out how to kind of work. And this is going to be a lot of relationship managing at this point, you know, and I think that's going to get really interesting because the last thing you want to be in Nick Nurse is LeBron says something in a press conference and Jaylen Brown goes on his Twitch and then Embiid says something to somebody, you know, it's going to get really interesting real quick. Yeah, if the chemistry's not right.
Between LeBron's Instagram and Jalen's Twitch and Embiid's Twitter, there's going to be a lot to monitor.
Yeah, it's going to get kind of interesting. There is one bit of news left we got to talk about.
I got one more thing on this now that I think about it. We didn't talk about the stagger partners with these four guys. How would you do the stagger? Because I think they're going to pretty clearly stagger these guys 2 and 2 for most of the half and then start and finish with the four of them on the court together.
It's tough. Like part of me is I think I would stagger LeBron and Embiid because
you would have them together or you would
apart because I think part of it too is like I want to try to take advantage of both of their post-ups abilities. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think LeBron can back down a little bit and put a little bit more of that out there. And I think that can kind of help sort of facilitate offense a bit more with where they're at. I think I'd probably go Embiid and Jaylen and Maxey and LeBron, but I'm not sure I'm really stuck with it. And part of me also wonders because we're just thinking 2 and 2.
Yeah.
But I almost might go 3 and 1 and slowly just cycle through guys.
I kind of want at least 2 of them on the court at all times.
No, I'm putting 3 on the court at all times and cycling the fourth person in.
Interesting. I don't know if that actually works mathematically. If you can always have 3 of them on the court.
LeBron, play 48 minutes. You're only 42 years old.
Yeah, especially if LeBron and Embiid are not playing like fully heavy minute loads. Like I thought about staggering LeBron and Embiid too, but then I realized I probably want one of LeBron or Maxey on the court at all times just to have an actual high-level playmaker out there.
That's a good point.
And I don't think I want Embiid and Maxey at all times because I just think that's too flammable defensively. Yeah, so I thought about LeBron, Embiid, and Maxey Jaylen. But then you have Jaylen maybe not happy because he's on the court with the best player on the team at all times.
Right.
Like, and is he ever going to get a chance to be the guy offensively at that point? Like, it's tough to figure out the best way to do it.
Yeah,
it's a good problem to have, though.
It's a great problem to have. How do I figure out and keep my 4 best players, you know, staggered and right? And the other thing, too, that's going to be really important, though, also that Nick Nurse has to figure out, too, is he's got to experiment with it. Because what we think might work is like, all right, cool. Like, hey, guys, we're going to try this for 10 games. This is the pairing of the staggering. Just want to see what it looks like. You know, and it's not just that. It's what other role players work with you. right? Who else helps you in that area? Like, can we play you guys, but we have to have KCP out there? It has to be Dean Wade with them, or like which role player works with who in that regard. I think the funnier. Do you think there's any sign? Like, do you think they signed Simons if they knew they were getting LeBron? Like, I think that kind of makes me wonder. Like, that's a tough. Because that's just another. That's as a scorer off the bench, but I do wonder the defense aspect of it gets kind of tough with that. I know you have Wade and KCP coming off the bench, but like, gets a little challenging.
Yeah, they're going to be depending on bench guys for defense, which is an interesting balancing act.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard part with that. I'm going to need more. This might take me all summer of thinking to decide what I want with the staggering.
Yeah, it might take me all season.
Might take Nick Nurse that long,
which is fine, by the way. Like, figuring it out during the season is fine.
As long as you get it figured out by the playoffs, as long as whatever April 17th or whenever the playoffs begin next season.